It's the Sports Peninsula podcast coming up. The Detroit Lions continue to improve and impress as they marched into Lambeau Field on Thursday Night Football and delivered a convincing 34-20 victory over the Green Bay Packers, improving to 3-1 on the season. The Lions are in sole possession of first in the NFC North as they now refocus on the visiting Carolina Panthers next Sunday at Ford Field. We'll talk about all that and much more coming up. Now here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Brzezinski-Drew. It's October 1st, Sunday. As Lions fans, we've had a pretty good day, but this is the Sports Peninsula podcast, and I got to represent the Tigers today for Miguel Cabrera. We saw his last game at Comerica Park, and wow. Guys, I'm going to bring in Coach Andy Schill, the Marine City Mariners, and the Uper Brad Harris. And before we talk Lion football, though, how did that hit you, Coach?
Well, yeah, it's not, all good things come to an end, and it's not just Miguel Cabrera's last appearance at Comerica Park, but it's his last appearance as a Major League Baseball player. And he concluded a marvelous career, a career that saw him be one of only 3 Major League Baseball players to ever finish their career with a 300 or a higher lifetime average, 3,000 or more hits, and 500 or more home runs. He is in an illustrious club of himself, Willie Mays, and Hank Aaron. Those are the only 3 players to ever do that. And those marquee milestone, Cooperstown milestone feats that he was able to accomplish. And, quite frankly, and yes, it can be up for debate, of course, but statistically and really potently, we just said goodbye to the greatest Detroit Tiger of all time.
Exquisitely said, Coach Schill. Brad, how did it hit you?
Just the memories and the joy he had while playing a boys' game was just it was a treat to watch. It was a treat to watch. And I got a ball right here. Miguel Cabrera, TC 2012.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, a Triple Crown winner for our Detroit Tigers. And, this is one of the guys, right? Like when we're older and grayer, we get to say we watched Miguel Cabrera. And that's going to be one of our guys. So thank you, Miggy.
Yeah, from my side of it, a lot of his outstanding moments occurred while I lived out of state, ironically, from 2009 through 2004 through 13 season. I was out of state. And one of the things that always kept me close to home was watching sports, and especially, Detroit sports, talking to you guys and stuff. That definitely helped. But, I got to see, all his stuff from a distance, but I got to see him in Fenway a couple times. That was awesome. And, yeah, he's the best I have ever seen, and we've seen Tram and Lou and Gibby and Jack Morris, and we know about Mr. Tiger Al Kaline, and that's no disrespect to him because, let's not be ignorant of our history and past, but even Mr. Tiger said Miguel Cabrera was the greatest hitter he ever saw, right-handed hitter. So I'll take his vote, and we'll go with Miggy. All right, guys. We love Miggy. He's going to be working for the Tigers still, so at least he's not leaving town. So that's good news. But another great thing, guys, is the 3-1 Detroit Lions. Wow. What more? What can we say, Coach? Did you expect them to be here at this point?
To be 3-1?
Yeah, 3-1.
Yes. Okay. I did expect them to be 3-1. Maybe the combination of victories could be differently. I expected them to have won the last 3 games. I thought they would lose in Arrowhead and win the next 3. So yes, I expected them to win this game. For them to come out of the gates the way they did and just be put Green Bay under a baptism of absolute blazing fire in their own stadium, and then finish the way they did, even though there was a bit of a stall in the third quarter. I mean, the Detroit Lions come in the week 4 of the NFL season And that next week into week 5, the Green Bay Packers are issuing memorandums to their fan base about selling tickets on the secondary market because the Detroit Lions basically came and hijacked their stadium. Not that hadn't happened in Ford Field or the Pontiac Silverdome with Green Bay fans before. So, I guess with that one, I will put my sunglasses on and conclude with deal with it.
You for Brad. This had to mean meant something to you. I know this does. Talk about it. How you feel?
Just my social media feed, right? From all my friends in the UP. Boy, M35 from Escanaba to Green Bay was busy. And I know my friends had a blast, and it really was a memory. So, once again, expectations have been raised and expectations have been met. This is what we expect to do. When you line these rosters up against one another, this is what should have happened. And it did. And kudos to the men in the Honolulu blue and silver and all white, like icy white.
Yeah, it was slick.
That's what it stands for.
Yeah. And so, what a joy. What a joy. Because it's, what did we say after last weekend? That's 4.
That's 4.
4 in a row. Way to go, fella.
Not been done since the great Monty Clark.
The sweet 80s.
And that was awesome. It's always great for the Lions to beat Green Bay and Lambeau. It's great for them to beat Green Bay, period. But they've had a lot of success in Detroit, but it's been nice, man. And hey, there is a correlation. When they win in Lambeau, they're usually pretty good because it's not easy to do that no matter what. But let's talk about some of the performances we saw, guys. And Coach, I'll start with you. Jared Goff. Right now, he's at a QBR of 98.4 on the year. He's on pace for 4,300 yards, and above that's his stat line from the game. Talk about your thoughts on his performance in that game.
Well, he came out of the gates that first drive and we threw the pick, which turned into 3 points for Green Bay, and then we put 27, consecutive on them, which included having great field position in one of them after that Jerry Jacobs interception. But you look at Jared Goff, and he doesn't throw many incompletions. His completion percentage is strong. The interceptions is something that we want to limit, and that's not been an issue for him while he's been with the Lions. Let's say since we've really kind of hit our stride here with our recent win-loss record over the course of the last 10, 12, 13 games. Dating back to last year, it's been really, really good. So we want to just make sure we're tightening up on those kinds of things. But what I noticed in real short order, he really dialed in some throws and some small windows. That was an improvement over what we saw against Atlanta in Ford Field just a few days earlier, and in a much more hostile atmosphere, where the Lions were, fans, did take Lambeau by storm to a certain degree, but let's face it, this is Lambeau Field, and it was full of Packer, fans, through and through, by and large. So, Jared Goff, it was impressive. It was strong, great leadership, and yet, I think he'll even play better down the road.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Coach. Brad, talk about what you saw with Jared Goff. What's your feelings on his performance overall this year, let alone
once again in complete control of the offense, and a heck of a blocker, with that end around with Leaf Raymond. But no, he's in control. I think he's the beneficiary of complementary football right now. I mean, the where we were getting the ball on offense, and then when we get the ball on offense, what we do with it. So, in the confidence in the men around him is really impressive. I mean, he was throwing to Sam Laporta when Sam Laporta may not have been open. He didn't have steps on the defender,
Mm-hmm.
but he trusts Sam Laporta to win the battle. And guess what Sam Laporta does? He wins the battle. And so there's a confidence that exudes from that number 16 jersey, and I just believe it's internal, but it's also what's going on around him. He's got a reason to be confident because the line in front of him, the running backs behind him, the receivers running these routes. These are people he can trust, and it shows.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the line again, Brad, because Penei Sewell back to right tackle because Taylor Decker came back, and we know he's not 100%, and we know Graham Glasgow's in there now at right guard, but we there's a lot of trust there. Certainly as fans, we know Graham Glasgow, and honestly, I thought he was going to start the season, quite frankly, and I think they wanted to go a big B and see what he give it all he had, and he did. When the game he played very well. But this line, getting Decker back was huge, and you're right, Brad. I think when you have that security, you're able to make better decisions, quicker decisions, and the game becomes slower. It slows down for you, and that's a beautiful thing. But Jared Goff, I loved his exchange with Fitzy after the game there because he had referred to him as a poor man's Matt Ryan. He said, "I hope my performance was up to your standards." He's like, "So you heard that?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, he handled it really well. But hey, I love that Jared Goff really is not an ego guy. He's a team guy. I mean, you can tell when you can handle things like that. That's a good thing, and you can see it in his play. His play in the game against Green Bay and all season. I mean, he's just been rock solid. So we love that, and let's hope it keeps up. Now let's talk about David Montgomery. I'll start with you, Brad. Hadn't seen a performance like this since 2000 when the Cat, James Stewart, pulled it up and had 100 yards rushing on top of it. Talk about David Montgomery's performance.
Another guy's just happy he wants to be part of this. He to never win at Lambeau until Thursday night, and just knowing that and owning it and wanting it and just being part of this. And he missed 4 days prior? Wasn't well enough to play on Sunday?
Yeah.
And was well enough to do what he did against the Green Bay Packers? I mean, he's laying it out there. There's no doubt in my mind he wasn't 100% doing it, but he wanted it. And these guys do. So, once again, he's a beneficiary of this line. I know was a decision point when he had options. Where am I going to go play? Let's go play in Detroit behind this offensive line with the team on the rise. And he's seeing it. So, it's great. Another thing about these Thursday night games is to have this 10 days till the next game. Like, the rest is going to help these guys. So, outstanding performance. I know there's a lot of chatter just because Lions fans, we got to talk about something that drives people crazy. And Jamir's not getting the carry. How come he's getting, this 32 attempts and Jamir, put your fantasy team in your back pocket, son, and let's go win some football games. And so we're fortunate. Brad Holmes did this, man. Brad Holmes did it.
No question. Coach Shield, talk about your thoughts on David Montgomery.
Well, just to look at the type of back that he is, and his ability to carry that kind of a load, and is really going to be a major asset, because I think that was something that last year we were so committee ridden, which was fine. I mean, we loved Jamal Williams, right? And he broke Barry's touchdown record, which really became kind of a niche thing once we got inside the 5-yard line. What he could do. And then DeAndre Swift, who looks right now to be maybe a potential NFL MVP type season that he's having in Philadelphia. And then Craig Reynolds and some of those other guys, really still had fortified roles. David Montgomery, when healthy or healthy enough, is going to be someone that's going to take a larger, claim of those carries and touches. It's just what he's able to do within his workload. we know exactly what we were facing when we played the Chicago Bears the last 3-4 years. And that was this guy. If he was healthy and playing in those games, he was going to be somebody that was going to be a real difficult stop. He's a difficult back to tackle. He's got great forward gain and forward momentum. He's a leg driver. He's a parallel shoulder, north-south guy that is going to get positive yards. And, you can see right there, those are old school numbers, 32 carries, that puts you back well into the 80s and 70s when you would see these things from the great backs that we got to watch, Dickerson and, Harris and Campbell and to name a few, Bear, Air Billy, and, some of those guys that got that kind of workload. Just to see that and to know that we can do that when the matchup is there for us and we can work on the inside tackle to tackle and secure the football and get inside and convert first downs and flip field and maintain time of possession and those kinds of things. It's great to have.
Yes, absolutely. Now let's talk about Jamir Gibbs because you brought it up, Brad, and let's talk. I mean, David Montgomery had a great game, but Jamir Gibbs did get some touches. Talk about his performance.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he's getting his feet wet in this league. And gentlemen, it's a 17-week calendar, right? We're going to need Jamir Gibbs fresh. We're going to need David Montgomery fresh as the season goes on. So, I don't know if they saw a run, if that was the plan, right? Like 8 carries. I'd imagine it wasn't, but what do what was happening on that field was working, and you're not going to adjust it. So I do feel as though this is a great combination. I don't see it going 50-50 for a while, and that's good. Let's get Gibbs in space. Let's get him on the edge. Believe me, Ben Johnson has more ideas in that head than any fan base. Like all of us collectively probably can't come up with as many ideas as Ben Johnson has on how to use Jamir Gibbs. And so I'm excited to see what the future is going to hold for this guy. And he's hungry. He's gonna take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. And coach, you can't, you want to give a guy like this enough that he knows he's at least contributing. But, to Brad's point, if something's working, you're not going to mess with it, right?
Yeah, and I think that, that really was a lot of it right there. It was just that we were converting with David Montgomery and those play calls, which are by and large were for him and his running style. There was no intent to make it probably as one-sided as it wound up being. I don't think that was they ran the ball between those two running backs. They weren't the only two to carry the football, but between the two 40 times on the nose. So if you were running between the two 40 times, yeah, I would think maybe one would be more like 25-15. Would probably be more. Something that they would try to work towards, or get the ball up to Gibbs out of the backfield, a little bit more too. No concerns there. And sometimes, hey, there is no intention. What's working is what's working. And the stat sheet reveals balance or a lack thereof afterwards. Those things are something that you can use to self-assess, which I'm sure Ben Johnson does. Every great offensive coach is a self-assessor. Before they start the game plan in full or script plays for the following week versus the Panthers. So, there's no concern here. It all worked out great. I mean, we ran the football for well over 150 yards. Things are great. Things are in a great place. And Jamir Gibbs has got plenty of big games in front of him, like just what Brad had alluded to.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. That this running back duo is working. It's a matter of making sure that you want to keep everybody contributing, but again, there's you got to earn those extra carries too. And Gibbs has played well, no question. But to your point, guys, Ben Johnson will figure out a way to get him really involved, and we'll talk about somebody that's going to be joining the team now unexpectedly. We didn't expect to see this guy until Monday night against the Raiders. All of a sudden, there's an amendment to the policies, and we're going to get JMO back on Monday. So this is a beautiful thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's talk about some of the other key players. Let's talk about the receivers. Now, Jared Goff didn't light it up statistically per se, but he was efficient enough, and when he needed clutch plays, he got them. And Coach, I don't think there's too much more clutch than St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is clutch, and that's what it's all about. Talk about his performance.
Yep, Mr. Systematic, the machine that is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Huge conversions, had that great touchdown to really pull the game away a little bit. Just his immense physical stature, his strength, his consistency, his leadership, his commitment to the finer details, 50-50 balls and winning those, always protecting his body away from the ball and the ball away from his body, being a plucker and great, going out and getting it with his hands. Amon-Ra St. Brown was just, an absolute machine in there. And, at 14:06, he's on that pace. I don't think, JMO coming into yes, there's going to be some play calls, but JMO is going to be utilized, as a true weapon. This isn't going to dip into Amon-Ra's touches that much. He really is within the system. He's their guy that they can feature, and with Ben Johnson crossing him and doing different things to isolate for him and different play structures that just seem, that they're not looking for him when they actually are, he's going to get his and then some and continue on. Just a great football player. Number 14's probably the most popular jersey in the stadium.
That's cool. That's really cool. I'm glad because he's I don't disagree at all. He's an amazing player, and I agree as well with you, Coach. Even Williams coming back, the skill sets are quite different.
100%.
What Williams can do isn't St. Brown's forte, and vice versa, and that's going to be a nice dynamic there. Hey, but Brad, talk about his performance on. I mean, when you're in a game like this against Green Bay, you've got to have that guy. It's just it's going to be there in the clutch, and St. Brown's that guy.
Yeah, it was like we throttled down. I felt like in the third, right? Like we were running that's how we got all those yards rushing. But we were kind of stalling a little bit on offense, and just felt like that last drive or one of the last drives, and they said, "No, let's go back to this." And guess what? Amon-Ra is open. And so it was great to see him start with that touchdown. And when we need him, he's there. And I just think he's a high tide that lifts all ships. I mean, he really is one of the great reasons why this team has got the mentality it does, is because of the work ethic, and what he's bringing to it. So once again, a lot of joy, right? Like that he's like kind of Miggy, right? We just talked about Miggy to start this thing and the fun he had playing baseball. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown has some fun playing football. You can just sense it. And we're 5 catches for 56 yards doesn't put you on Sports Center or whatever they do nowadays. But I'll tell you, that was every one of those yards are important, and that touchdown really did set the tone. So a great piece to this puzzle.
Yes, no question about that, Brad. Hey, Coach, let's talk about Sam Laporta. Talk about on pace. This guy's on pace for 1,000-yard season this year. Incredible rookie performance so far. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, Brad Holmes, in Holmes we trust. Brad strikes again. Taking Sam Laporta over Meyer and some other tight end prospects that were supposedly guys that were ahead of him. And what we see is that smooth. He's very athletic. He can really run, get himself into open areas, and he gets there fast. And that's great to see. That's what TJ Hawkinson could do too. I do think Laporta really we do although Brock Wright does come in quite a bit, Sam Laporta is in on a lot of the run snaps as well. And being that we've had 100 yards or more on the ground in each of our football games that we played, this year, he's really just such a great asset. And as a rookie too, to know that his curve, whether it's his receiving statistics and his potency as a receiver, is going to improve and increase. His ability to impact the run game and to block is going to increase as well. Sam Laporta, Brian Branch in that area of the draft are probably the two of the best players performing. There's just no doubt about it in that area of the draft.
Yeah, that's a good observation, no question. Day 2 guys playing at this level, it's impressive. Hey, Brad, talk about Sam Laporta, how he looked against Green Bay.
Man, you talk about number 14 jerseys at Ford Field being the most popular. Like 87 in a year or so could be pushing it, because man, the kid, as I mentioned earlier, with Goff's trust in his abilities, because that catch he had in the first half, he was, the defender was on him, and Goff hit him, and he shed that defender, and he rumbled down the field like a vet. And he's not a vet; he's a rookie. So, man, I feel like that we're just throwing flowers everywhere, right? Like, oh, this guy's great. This guy, like, please hang with us, folks. But I mean, what are you gonna complain about? I mean, he's in on blocking downs that I didn't anticipate him being on, and he's catching balls that are thrown his way. So I don't know what else you can ask.
Yeah, he's been such an asset, and to your point, you brought up, but we guys brought up Hawkinson. He's every bit as good as Hawkinson at this point, certainly this season. And what an amazing way to replace the asset you traded. I mean, Brad Holmes